Reavis, thank you for joining me this morning. I greatly appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man. So, I actually wanted to start with your journey. How did acting come into your life?
Man, we got to go way back now. But I don't know. It's crazy how it happened. Just looking back, there were some things that I did in high school and some programs that I was in that I really didn't realize was building my love for acting. Also thinking of like movies was family time for me. It was very important.
Mhm.
We always went to the movies as a family. We knew we would get all the candy, all the popcorn, and just, that was family time. Even times of trouble. I remember, I think it was in college, and my mom and my stepdad kind of was going through some things, but they just grabbed me and my littlest sister, and we went to see two movies, and then after that, everything was fine. But it's weird, but that's how it went. But I think and towards the end of college, I kind of got into modeling. When I had nice hair and everything. uh, it just, I started getting into that, and then I had heard about some background work, and somebody was like, "Hey, you should get into that." They were doing it, and I'm actually, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, so they were actually filming a part of About Schmidt with Jack Nicholson at the University of Lincoln. So I just submitted for it and I got it. And that day they had me my part, my background. I was just right by the camera and right where Jack Nicholson was. So just I was just observing everything, just seeing Jack Nicholson, and seeing all the behind the camera stuff. And I was like, I like this, you know? And I actually went to school for journalism and broadcasting. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So I was already taking all the TV classes and stuff like that. So all that together, I would just realize I was like, this is something I want to do. So I did some more background work, and then I think once the first time I had a real audition for something, I auditioned for an independent feature film. I got cast, and just boom, it just started going from there. It's crazy.
So you were going to
So,
school for sports broadcasting to
mhm,
become, I mean, what was the switch that, I mean, because sports broadcasting has its own, way of
mhm.
doing things as well. What was it that you were just like, yeah, being in front of a camera for a feature film, that's where it's at. Like, what was the change?
I don't know. It was just like, because I think the hardest part was journalism is the hardest thing to get into.
Hmm.
So once I graduated, I think a part of me was like, I'm done, and you really have to engrave yourself into like going to a small city and a small market, and it's not pretty at all. And I think I just wasn't enticed to do all that stuff. So everything else that I had a chance to do, just a little bit of modeling and being on set, it's just kind of what I guess it was like in my soul, and I just didn't know it, but it just kept bringing me back to that, to what felt good to me. So,
I was reading that you took on stepping away from acting once you discovered you loved it to be there for family. So,
mhm.
which, a lot of that balance is hard. So I appreciate that you took the time that you were like, nope, this is what my focus is going to be. So now
Right.
you're hitting it full force, but that family is still there. How do you balance it?
Well, it was really tough. And actually, even before I got that first feature film, when I was just doing some background work, I actually took a workshop that was really big from Molly Benson from California. Like it was amazing workshop, and that's really what got me into saying I'm gonna try this. But all of a sudden, here comes my daughter, and I it was just weird because like, all right, now I'm a dad. I have no idea what I'm doing, no idea. And so the first 2 years of her life was just raising her. I was mainly taking care of her in the morning. Her mom went to work early in the morning, so it was my job. So it was like I was spending valuable time with her, and it was crazy because I was like, I got this little thing that I love, but I don't know what to do with it. And to me, like everybody's had their own journey, but mine was tough because I had to be stable for me and my daughter. You
Mhm.
know, me and her mom weren't together, but we're like friends. So I did my part while staying stable and living life. and still going after a passion. So just balancing it was hard, but I think after a while, it was life to me,
Yeah.
you know. And some people didn't understand it because a lot of people would always look at creatives and say, "Oh, well, you're a dreamer and you're not doing this, or trying to date or do all this other stuff." People looked at you weird because one, you're working, and then you're a dad and you do your acting. So a lot of things weren't. A lot of people come to me not understanding my focus and what I was trying to do, or take my focus away from what it was. So it was a lot of learning for me, because at the forefront, the main thing was my daughter. And then, okay, I got us a stable place, doing that. Okay, let me see what I can do with my acting. So it just became it was life for me.
You mentioned earlier how you kept focus, like when you were on set watching Jack Nicholson, you like took it all in. So
Hmm.
from that experience, I mean, you're a writer, you're a director, and an actor.
Yeah.
With all of those fields, do you feel that one is easier than the other, or all of them
I,
have their own special kind of?
well, they do. They all kind of have their own special part. You know what I mean? Some it depends on who you ask. But me, it's I guess one model that I have that I learned from being in my fraternity is that whatever I'm going to do, I like to give my 100%. Now, my 100% may not be somebody else's 100%, but I know I'm going to give my best. So, you know, already knowing like acting is the number one for me, but still being a writer and director and then knowing other people that have done it, you still got to give that same amount of energy. You know what I mean? Because writing, it's so intricate. You're building something from a blank piece of paper or nothing on the computer, and then as a director, you're trying to get that writer's vision on film. So you're working with the crew, the whole cast, the actors to get them to bring that to life. And then as an actor, you're bringing the writer's words and the director's vision to life. So it's everybody has to come in and give their part as a whole. So to me, I felt like being, doing all three it's 100%, and that's
Yep.
it. So that's just kind of how I looked at it.
Well, we got to have you here in our state to film Duster, and that
Okay.
was a talked about production here for quite a while. So, can you tell us more about your character and how you developed him through this 8 episode arc?
Well, my character Lyall, he was a bodyguard. I kind of took it as he was one of Sax's. He was played by Keith David, one of his main bodyguards, always there. I think a while ago somebody told me it was like you're a very natural actor, and I had to sit and think about that, and I was like, I try to bring as much natural nature as I can. So whatever character I'm bringing, I look to who they are and saying, what from my real life can I bring into that character? So the first thing I was thinking of, since I'm one of his main bodyguards, always there protecting him and his son, the family, his family. And so the first thing I thought about was my daughter, my siblings and all that. I'm very protective over them. So as far as Lyall is he doesn't really say much at all, but he's always there. He's taking care of his family, Sax's family. That's my job. So it was just always that anybody interacting with him, I'm always up front, like, hey, like, this is what I protect. These are my people. You're not gonna hurt them. You're not gonna get in their way. So that's kind of what I carried into Lyall, being the protector.
So, I have to ask Keith David, what was it like? 'Cause that man is, oh my goodness, what was it like being on set with him and working with him?
At first I was kind of like, because I mean gargoyles and just all these movies that I've seen him in, and I'm just on I'm work I'm this is my coworker. That's what it was. He's a cool guy. I mean, he we all after he went with me and some other guys to eat dinner and stuff and just hanging out. He's just a good guy. You
Mhm.
know, and we were just talking, had some things in common, and he was giving me some advice. But it was a breath of fresh air to know that he was just a down to earth, good person. And that's what felt best to me, getting to know him, working on set.
I am so glad to hear that. I am very glad to hear that. So I always like to ask what it was like working in New Mexico. I'm very proud of the productions that have come through and what we've done here. What was it like filming here?
It was great. it was great. The one thing that meant a lot to me was the crew, like the PAs and everybody. Just they're from the surrounding area. They're such great people, and you don't. Some people don't realize that until you get on set. You're seeing these people there. Hey, you got to be here at this time. They're coming and letting you know everything, and they're just treating you so well. And so you're talking to them, and they're just great. Albuquerque is just there's great people there. You know what I mean? Because they're there before you get there, so they could be grouchy or not. They were always just so ready and so perky, ready to go, and keeping you. There was no way you could be in a bad mood being around them. And then just some of the locations that's there. I love filming in Albuquerque. It was great.
I know a lot because of NDAs and stuff like that. Some things you have to keep under wraps, but is there anything that you could share with us about upcoming projects you have?
Um, some things I can, but I know, and actually, I'm actually in Phoenix right now. I do want to say I'm working with a comedian here, Sydney Smith, good friend of mine. He's kind of like a big brother to me. We're working on a lot of independent stuff. So I always
Mm.
have to say, everybody check him out on Instagram, Sydney Smith. He's a great comedian here, but he's an amazing writer. That's one thing that I've learned too, is that if you're not acting, you should be working on something. And we've got a lot planned. And just get into this point. It's amazing to be able to say, okay, well, what can I create on my own? And having a team put together to get those visions out. That's always great. And then, we're always hoping for a Duster season two. So
That
and then just
that's
out
what
there
we're hoping for
auditioning.
too.
Exactly. So so a lot of things coming up, a lot of good things and opportunities coming up.
So before we go, I have to ask, because you've been in the business for a while now, what has been probably the biggest lesson you've learned so far in your career?
Oh man. Whew. I guess it sounds cliche because a lot of people say it, but it's true. Like, don't stop. I've heard it so many times and been through ups and downs, wanted to stop and just give up. But that's what it is. It's just you don't stop. You're so many challenges in life come up, like me being stable, having my daughter and working, it's just at the end of the day, you're like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do none of it. But I turned around and had to sit down and look at my career and say, okay, everything that I'm doing now is better than what I did yesterday. And it kept happening like that. And I was just like, why should I stop? And it doesn't matter how much talent you have or how pretty you are or whatnot. It's like, as long as you don't stop, you're gonna make it. It's the truth. Like, it's the truth. So that's one thing I learned is like, don't, no matter how hard things get, if you love it, if you really love it, just don't stop. Don't stop.
Important advice. Revis, thank you. I know it's a Saturday and I appreciate you taking the time out on a Saturday to talk with me. And we are so looking forward to this first season of the Duster to see how it goes.
Right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.